Alright everyone, welcome back. As you can see, we are back working on the house today. I know the last few videos have been more homestead oriented with our chickens and our fruit trees, but here we are back with our house build. So today we are working on all of the siding. We did most of the siding for the first floor. We just had to come back a little later and do all the siding for the second floor. Now, this was a little more challenging than the first floor because we had to do it all in the boom lift, obviously, and negotiating those sometimes 11-foot wide panels in the boom lift wasn't super easy. Just like before, we had already trimmed out all of our windows. What we used is basically a C-channel of metal with the black outside. And what this does is it covers the edge that goes right up against your window. And that way, everything around your window looks nice and pretty. After cutting those out, we just used the angle grinder like we did last time. And then we just slid it down over the windows. We did this for pretty much the whole process. The only thing a little different about the second floor, as well as being up in the boom lift, was we had the angle of the roof to deal with. So instead of just being able to cut everything flat, we had to cut the top panels at an angle. That way it followed where the roof was going to go and where the soffit was. So it was a little more challenging to cut, but it worked out and it wasn't super hard. And then as you can see, this side is the south facing side. So this is the side with our staircase and the window right above our bed. And you can see that little hole that we cut out in that one panel. That's actually for the downstairs bathroom exhaust fan. So we had to cut that 4-inch hole so that the exhaust fan could terminate outside. And that just took a little bit of measuring and planning. Now this north side was a little harder because of where all the windows were and where our kitchen vent fan terminated, as well as our mini split lines. So we had a couple pieces that we had to negotiate in between the windows, which takes a little bit of effort. And then also we had to negotiate it around our mini split lines and that vent for our range hood. But we got it in with a little work. It just took a few more people. And just as a note, we are eventually going to put metal chases, you would call them, metal chases around those mini split tubes, and that way you can't see all the wires and all the coolant lines. But until we get those ordered and they come in, the coolant lines are just going to hang out where they are. They really don't move too much in the wind, so it's not detrimental to them. They're fine. Eventually we'll cover them just so it looks nicer, but for right now they are what they are. We are working on soffit, fascia, and siding today on the house we have built all by ourselves on our homestead. And I'm here with my good friend Chelsea.
We're friends now?
Yeah. Who is marking out all of our soffit. What we're doing is using this siding and we're cutting it down to be the correct width. And then we're going to put it up as our soffit. We're going to stain it and put it up to cover all of that. So we already have most of it ripped down. We just have this last piece to cut. We'll cut that and then we will stain it and then we will start putting it up. because this siding is meant to go up horizontally and overlap, we are cutting this lip off of it, and then the full piece will be the outside, and then our little quarter pieces will be on the inside of the house. We chose to do a wood soffit because the kind of vinyl soffits or metal soffits that you can usually get, I think, just look cheap. We also don't need any vents in our soffit because we have that conditioned attic and that sealed attic. So we thought just wood would look a little nicer and would help contrast the metal of the house. First floor. Up to the second floor. So we're going to go over a little bit and then we're going to extend ourselves. We're going to be putting these pieces right up here underneath the soffit, or where the soffit is, and I'll show you real quick. We're eventually going to be putting a, what do you call it?
Fascia?
Nope. Gutter on here, so we put blocking behind here so the gutter has something structural and strong to go into. But our soffit is just going to be screwed right into here, and then our fascia will come down and wrap around to the edge of the soffit. So after doing the first couple of pieces, we figured out that it was a lot easier to put the soffit up first and then put our last piece of siding on after that, because otherwise sometimes the siding would be a little high to fit the soffit, and then we're trying to bend it to get the soffit in there, or we have to cut it with metal shears or something that was just kind of not working and it wouldn't work real well. So putting the soffit up, doing all that, and then putting that last piece of siding was easily the best option. The next thing we did was put our fascia on. As you can see here, we just screwed it all into the bottom mainly, and then all these screws that you can see that are into the front are just kind of holding it there so it doesn't rattle super badly, and those will eventually be replaced when the gutter gets screwed in. So I'm not worried about those or there being holes there, because a gutter will just cover that. As you can see, also getting this corner, they make a hemming tool that's like a hand hemming tool. I just couldn't find any of them locally, and I think they were a little expensive when I looked. But if you're going to be doing a lot of this, getting one of those hand hemming tools, that way you can make these corners nice and sharp, works really well. Otherwise, this did end up working, just kind of banging the corner in and then screwing the pieces together and just kind of getting it to fit. So it did eventually work, but it might be a little easier if you have the right tools, but sometimes you don't. Think about that shit. Crap. What do you think, Chels? How do we do that? We can't just ignore that angle.
Do you have a Sharpie? You do. So I would put it up and then mark and then cut it with the 10 snips.
Oh, we did the wrong side. I still recording this. Oh, so that looks pretty good.
That's close. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we'll be able to
Good
tell
enough.
from there. That's what I think too.
Good enough for government work. Do with them though.
I do want to note that we did need 2 people to put these fascias up. The fascia pieces are 10 foot 6 inches in length, and it's a pretty thin metal. I think it was like 16 or 18 gauge that you could order, and we ordered the 18 gauge because I was like, oh, it doesn't have to be structural, when in fact I should have ordered the 16 gauge, so it was a little thicker, and it actually might have been 26 or 24 or something. I'm not exactly sure what it was, but a little thicker of a fascia would have been nice, and it would have been easier to handle because we did kink 1. And then these are the corners that we're using. The company Metal Sales that we got all of our metal roofing through, they make corner pieces that fit over this specific type of type of siding. That way it's the correct length and stuff. And so we just used some of those corner caps. That way it trimmed out nice and it finished out nice. And we just kind of screwed those into the ribs, every other rib. We also used some of this foam before we screwed it in. That way bugs and stuff wouldn't get into that area, or wind and water wouldn't get into that corner area and get behind our siding, make their homes or make that area really wet.
I don't know how I'm going to do this. Oh, fantastic, Josh. Alright. Do you have another one? One more. Don't sit like that, the way it is right now.
And then after we got all of the corner pieces on, all of our fascia and soffit in, one of the last things we had to do was put these snow blocks. I honestly completely blanked on what these things are. They're basically little cleats that we put in the roof to block the snow and ice from sliding off of the roof. The reason we did this is it wouldn't otherwise matter if the snow and ice kind of ran off of the roof, but our gutters, if the snow and ice runs off of the roof and crashes into the gutters, it'll just rip the gutters off regardless of what they're screwed into. And the company who installed our seamless gutters actually will warranty their gutters if we have these, but if we don't have them, they won't warranty them. Now, we're putting them in between every rib. And what Chelsea is doing is Chelsea is on the bottom side and she's putting a block of a 2x6 in that spot where this cleat is going to go. And that way the cleat is actually screwing into something solid and it's not just going into our thin 1/2 inch roof sheathing, because that wouldn't hold at all against our snow load. I mean, we sometimes get 2 or 3 feet of snow in a storm, and so we need something a little more solid than just the plywood. So she's under there holding those blocks up and making these really solid. And this kind of wraps up the outside of our house, or what we at least need to do to get ready for that final inspection so we can get our certificate of occupancy. Stay tuned and let us know what you think of how our house turned out on the outside. Obviously things aren't 100% done, but drop a comment, make sure you like and subscribe to us if you haven't. Thanks for watching, guys, and thanks for all the support you guys have given us. Make sure you stay tuned to see if we get our certificate of occupancy, and we've got a lot more projects coming up, so stay tuned for those.